Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, welcome to Thinking Maps Ambassadors. Today, we will be working on a brand new thinking map. And this week, our thinking map that we're focusing on is called a multi-flow map. What, you ask, is a multi-flow map, and how is it going to help me? Well, excellent question. A multi-flow map is a map that we use to help us organize our ideas about the causes and effects of a specific topic. So causes always are listed on the left and effects are always listed on the right. But we start by putting our topic in the middle. So this particular map is going to be about graduating high school. So I'm going to put graduating high school in a square in the middle. On the left, I'm going to put my causes. So what might cause me to graduate high school? Why might I choose to graduate high school? Peer pressure, right? Like I don't want to be the only one of my friends who doesn't. Maybe pride, because it's everyone in my family has done it, or perhaps no one in my family has done it. And I want to be the first, or I don't want to be the first who didn't, right? So pride might be an example of that, right? Okay, so another reason for graduating high school, maybe it's let's see, another reason, maybe I want to show my children that I can do it. Okay, so that might be a reason for graduating high school. All right, so what might be some of the effects of graduating high school? Well, I gotta say, one effect might be, one effect will be getting that diploma, right? When you graduate, you get your diploma. Perhaps you'll be able to get a higher paying job, higher paying permanent job, because I know a lot of employers will only hire someone part-time or temporary if they don't have that diploma. All right, so higher paying permanent job, a diploma, it's the gateway to college. Gateway to college. Can't get to college without that diploma, right? Okay, or in some cases, a GED or a HiSET. All right, so we've got reasons on the left. We've got, causes on the left. On the right, we have effects. So remember that a multi-flow map helps us think about causes and effects. Those are the two things we're analyzing. They don't have to be balanced either. So I might have 4 effects and only 3 causes. Totally fine. So if I wanted to add one more effect of graduating high school, I might put, yeah, I know that one's on both sides, but you know, I might graduate because I have pride, and I might have more pride because I got it done, right? Like for some of us, this is not a simple thing, and we have to work really crazy hard to get there. So that might be something we should be proud of, right? Okay, so I wanted to point out that you may have an unequal number of causes and effects. Totally normal, completely okay. In fact, mind blown. You know what, guys? You can do one side and not do the other side. Also okay. So the next part we need to mention is this purple frame. This is our frame of reference. So if you're drawing your own map, you got to make sure you draw a frame of reference around your map. Leave it big because you need space to write. The frame of reference is where we're going to make connections between one concept and another. And we're going to answer a critical thinking question in that frame of reference. Sometimes our teacher will give us a specific question they want us to answer. And I tell my students a lot of times that critical thinking question, you can just rephrase the essential question from the lesson you're reading. Or perhaps it might be turning the lesson title into a question. So that would be our critical thinking question. In this case, in the case of this map, I already have a critical thinking question. Yeah, make my life easier because now I just got to think of how to answer it. But this is where the real work comes in on a thinking map, right? Because a thinking map's purpose is to help us analyze how we think and why we think that so that we can then apply that. So in this case, our question is, what social reasons, I can't speak today, sorry guys, what social reasons might influence the decision not or to finish high school? So this is where I would need to write an answer to my question. Let me see. Won't let me put that where I want it until I write. So, okay, some of the reasons we choose to graduate might include showing our family that we can do it. Okay, now for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to bore you while I type out many, many more sentences to finish this. But when we do our answer, it needs to be a solid paragraph. How many sentences are in a paragraph now that we're in high school? Not sure? Let me tell you, a paragraph should have 6 to 8 sentences. So you need to have 6 to 8 sentences answering this critical thinking question. And you know why this is awesome? Because our entire map now is going to become a launching pad for an academic conversation. So we are ready with the vocabulary we need, and we've thought our ideas out. We're ready to speak to our peers or to have a discussion with our teacher. So I want to give you a model of what that should look like. Now, when we go to speak to someone off of our map, we want to speak the same way we would if we were doing a presentation. So we want to have eye contact. You should be looking at your audience, whether it's one person or a group of people. You need to make sure that you're thinking about where you're looking. We shouldn't only be reading a piece of paper and that's all. I'm just going to read over here. We want to engage our audience. We want them to know that we care about them. So we use eye contact to do that. We also need to moderate our speech. That means that we slow down so that people can hear and process what we're saying when we speak. We also need to make sure that we enunciate carefully, like earlier when you heard me say regions and I stopped myself and I went back and I said it correctly. We want to do that when we're having these academic conversations from our thinking maps. So let me show you an example of how I would read this map we just created. All right, let's talk about graduating high school. Some of the reasons, the causes of graduating high school might include pride in yourself or your family, might include peer pressure because all of your age group is also graduating. You want to graduate with everyone you grew up with. And it might include, if you're a parent, showing your children that, yeah, hey, I can do this. Now you can do it too. So those are some of the causes for graduating high school, but graduating high school has a lot of effects as well. Some people may feel pride at their accomplishment because this is something they had to work very hard for. Other people may be able to get higher paying permanent jobs as a result of graduating high school. And everyone who graduates high school will get a diploma, which is a nice thing to have. It's also, for some of us, graduating high school may be a gateway to college. It's the beginning. It's how we start. All right, those are some of the causes and effects of graduating high school. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I've given you an example, but one thing I forgot when I was presenting my map just now, did anybody notice what I left out? Yeah, I didn't include any discussion of my, oops, here we go, critical thinking question here. So I need to make sure that I talk about that when I'm presenting my map as well. So I might explain the question to the audience and then give my answer. So here we go. The critical thinking question I talked about on my thinking map was the social reasons that might influence someone to graduate or not graduate from high school. And what I thought was that some of the reasons we might choose to graduate include showing our families that we can do it. All right. When you're presenting your papers, obviously you will have a much longer answer to your critical thinking question. I said we need a full paragraph, and I said that was how many sentences? Yep, you're right, 6 to 8 sentences. Excellent. All right, so we have gone over how to create our map, what our frame of reference looks like, and we've talked about answering that critical thinking question in our frame of reference. This is all good, but I don't know about you guys, I love having a rubric. A rubric tells me what am I supposed to have on this thing so that I know I did it right and I get an A. I like getting it right. Okay, so let's take a look. We do have a rubric for multi-flow maps. So here's our rubric for multi-flow maps. Here is the column where we would put the things we want to improve, so areas for growth. These are the criteria each map needs to have, and this would be where we would put what we did right. Hey, you did this right, you did that right. So this is something you might use with your teacher when she's checking your maps. All right, so let's take a look at the center column, the criteria. All right, so the first criteria is that the topic is clearly and legibly labeled. So remember that the reader needs to be able to see what the topic is. And that was, if we look back at our map, here we go. This is our topic right here in the middle, graduating high school. Awesome. So it's clearly labeled and we have it surrounded with our box. Good, so we met that part of the criteria. 3 or more causes are present. Okay, so let's take a look at our map. Where am I going to find causes? Correct. Causes are on the left. Here we go. So do I have 3 or more? Aha, 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Check the box. We got 3 or more. Okay, what's our next criteria? So we had our topic clearly labeled. We have 3 or more causes. Yep, you're right. Now we're going to need 3 or more effects. Okay, so let's take a look at the map we just created and make sure we have 3 or more effects. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We do indeed have enough. Excellent. Okay, looking good. So we've met those criteria. Let's continue looking. Okay. The frame of reference contains an explanation of the critical thinking questions with clear connections to the material on the multi-flow map. Oh, did we do that? Let's double check. Okay, let's go back. Okay, some reasons might include showing our family we can do it. Is that reason on my map? Well, oh, here, show children that I can do it. That would be some of my reasons, my causes. Excellent, so I've got that. Love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is looking good. It looks like we've met many of these initial criteria. Okay, we are going to next need to do, let's see what the next criteria might be. All quotes or sources in the frame of reference are correctly cited in the proper format. Ah, we did not talk about that yet. So, in our frame of reference, we need to make sure that if we have quoted a book or something of that nature that we're working on, that particular book or source is cited properly. And if you're not sure what APA or MLA is, your teacher can show you what that looks like. All right, so we need to make sure that on our map, this map, we did not quote a book or a website or an internet article, but if we had, we would need to make sure that in our frame of reference, we listed that book. And if your teacher uses MLA format, she or he can show you what that looks like so that you can do it properly, because this is an opportunity to practice proper citations so that we're ready when we go to write those papers. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we've looked at what a multi-flow map looks like. It's got a box in the middle with the topic, and it's talking about the causes and effects of a certain topic. So causes always go on the left, effects always go on the right. Excellent. And remember that we always include a frame of reference to give us an opportunity to demonstrate some critical thinking. So we have a critical thinking question, we answer that critical thinking question, and our answer should be a solid 6 to 8 sentence paragraph. Excellent. I think, ladies and gentlemen, you have a good basic idea of what a multi-flow map is. So let's move on. Oops, wrong spot. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to give you a chance to practice making a multi-flow map. Let's see, I put the topic in the middle here. So our topic is pollution. All right, so we're going to talk about the causes and effects of pollution. And you'll notice up here in our frame of reference, I have a few things. So I have a note reminding you to cite where you found your evidence. And then I have a critical thinking question. How is pollution related to social policy? Now, that's an excellent question, but I can't answer the question if I don't know what social policy is. So, does anyone have a guess? Well, for those of you at home who don't know, social policy is just a fancy way to talk about the rules and the laws that we make as a society that make our society work. So you could substitute the phrase social policy with laws and regulations. So how is pollution related to laws? That's a great question. And I know that not everyone knows a ton about this topic, so I wanted to give you some information. All right, so over here I have the word plastic island. If you are to go to Google and type in that phrase, you will come up with all kinds of videos, images, and news articles. I have linked one for you here, so I click the link, and this is an example of one. You can type this in, if you wish, into your browser, and you'll find a video and a news article, which is basically a transcription of that video, that is all about a place called Plastic Island, which is a classic example of our pollution problem. So I am going to pause our video for approximately 5 minutes. I want you guys to create your own multi-flow map about the causes and effects of pollution. Feel free to follow the link and go to this website if you need some information. Some of this you may be able to come up with off the top of your head. Remember, if you use the website I'm giving you or any other resource, you need to list it clearly in your frame of reference. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pause our video for approximately 5 minutes so that you have time to work. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you had adequate time to work on your pollution map. We're going to now take a look at the one we worked on here together. All right, so we started by putting our topic in the center with a box, and we decided to first discuss several of the causes of pollution. We found our information on that website I was telling you about. So in our frame of reference, we've copied down the web address. If you are doing this electronically, you can of course copy and paste your web address. And if your teacher has a specific format for the information you use when you're citing your sources, please follow your teacher's recommendations. For today, we simply copied and pasted the web address. All right, so we decided to discuss several causes of pollution. One of them was a lack of recycling. Another was excessive packaging. You know, when you get a brand new product and there's this big plastic shell around it, and then inside that plastic shell there's a smaller plastic shell, and then there's twisty ties and crazy things, right? We don't need that much packaging, do we? No. So that's excessive packaging. And then also another cause of pollution is one-time use products, like all of those water bottles that we just throw away when we're done with. Where do they go? Right? So those are some of the causes of pollution. And notice here, this is something I forgot to point out when I was talking to you about how to make your map earlier. But each cause is connected with an arrow that goes from the cause to the topic. So now we have each cause connected to the topic with an arrow. And if you look, coming out of the cause and attached to the effects, we have another arrow. So you see that the arrows are flowing from left to right. So our causes are connected to the topic, and then our topic is connected to the effects. And you can see here we have several effects. So the first one we wanted to talk about was this floating trash island. That's a huge problem, not just for the animals who are losing their habitats, but also for the people, because these animals have so much plastic in their environment that it's becoming incorporated into their bodies. And when we eat them, now we're getting plastic inside of our bodies. And this is just all a bad thing, right? These are not good effects. Okay, so we've got our effects. And going back to that rubric, you'll remember that we need 3 or more causes and 3 or more effects. And then we need to answer our critical thinking question and quote our sources. So let's take a quick look, going back now. We've got 3 causes, 3 effects, so that's our bare bones minimum, right? Good. And we have our source here. Oh, and up here we did answer a critical thinking question, or we began an answer to this critical thinking question. So our critical thinking question was, how is pollution related to social policy? Remember, social policy is just a way to reference the laws and rules we use to organize our society. So we have a short answer here that could definitely be expanded upon, but we didn't have very much time. So our answer says, we don't have a set of universal laws regarding pollution. Instead, each country makes their own laws. Some countries have strict laws and others do not. Sometimes the lack of policy in one country causes problems for other countries. Floating trash islands are examples of a problem caused by countries far from the problem. We all throw away plastic every day, and it causes massive problems for people and wildlife in the Pacific Ocean. Well, clearly, you can see that this is a beginning to an answer, but I wanted you to note that we did include some of the terms from the question in our sentence. So here we've got the word policy, and we're giving the reader, or in this case, audience, depending on whether we're presenting it orally or having someone read it, we're giving them a way to see that we're connecting the question to what's on our map. So we want to make sure that we incorporate the information on our map in our answer. And with more time, we can definitely include more of our ideas here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for working with me on this. Remember that when we use a multi-flow map, we're working with cause and effect. Causes on the left, effects on the right. Now we could, ladies and gentlemen, have done a map that looks like this. We could do just this. So we can have only effects of pollution, or we can have only causes of pollution. We do not have to have all of them. So we could do our map either way. Either of these maps would be acceptable as well. depending on what your teacher asks for. So if they want you to only discuss the effects, then that's fine. You can discuss only the effects. If they want you to only discuss causes, you can discuss only causes. So a multi-flow map is a little bit versatile in that we can discuss causes and effects, or we can discuss only one of them. We always need to remember to include an explanation to a critical thinking question and a citation for any sources that we use. All right, I think you guys are well on your way to understanding how to use a multi-flow map. But I wanted to give you one more example of how we might apply this in an academic setting. So this particular example here is of solving a function. And I know we've all had to do this in our math class if we're not doing it now. So I started with my function in the center. So my function is 2x plus 1. All right, so my causes would be on the left. My causes are the values I'm given for x. So in my problem, I was given the value of -1, 0, 1, and 2 for x. And you can see here, I've listed those values as my causes. So if x equals -1, then y equals, and here I have put my solutions for y, and they need to correspond to my solutions for x. So you can see across from -1 for x, I have -1 for y. All right, so I have to also ensure that when I am doing something like this, especially if it's a math problem, in my frame of reference, I want to ensure that I include an explanation for how I solve the problem, because this helps me think it through and it helps me demonstrate to others what I'm doing. So here I have my steps written out. So step 1 was to copy the problem and substitute the chosen value for the letter x. So I've shown how I did that below. So 2 times -1 plus x, because my first term here is -1. Step 2 was to multiply. So 2 times -1 is -2. So I have -2 plus 1. I've simply copied the problem. I multiplied the first two terms and I kept the second term. So now I have -2 plus 1. Step 3 is to add -2 and 1. -2 plus 1 is -1. So my answer, -1, needs to go over here. If x equals -1, then y equals -1. Not that difficult, right? It's a great way to help me visualize what I'm doing with my math problem. Okay. But in my frame of reference, it's always a good idea to answer a critical thinking question. So I tossed this one in for you because this is a concept that I struggled with for years and years and years. What are the domain and range of this function? So domain is always the value of x. So that's my causes. And range is always the value of y in a function. So those are my effects. So I have now answered my critical thinking question. I need to clearly label. When you're doing a math problem, you have to make sure that you label clearly what your causes and effects are. So in this case, that's why it says, if x equals, then y equals, because this is what x equals, this is what y equals, and the function I'm using goes in the middle. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now that you've seen an example of how we might use this for a math problem, it's homework time. I think you guys are ready. I know, it's hard, right? Nah, you guys got this. All right, so we always have 2 homework assignments. The first one is usually an academic concept one, and the second one always has to do with grads. So our first homework assignment is, yeah, you guessed it, those of you who are looking on the side panel over here, it is a choose your own math problem. Now, if you are taking integrated math, this is great. You have plenty of math problems assigned to you every week. if you're taking business or consumer math. You also have plenty of problems assigned to you each week to choose from. If not, you can ask your teacher to give you a problem, or you can simply find a problem online. I'm sure we can all find a math problem. It can be a very simple one. It can be an addition problem. It can be adding fractions. You can pick any math topic you want. So make sure you pick a topic that you are either really enjoying or you want a little bit of help with, right? So that you can work on this one with your teacher if you need to, not a problem. Make sure that you put your math problem in the center. Causes would go here, effects would go here, and be sure to explain the steps you followed to solve your problem in your frame of reference. Excellent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think you got this. You are ready to do a math problem, right? Now, I gave you an example of a function, but perhaps you want to do a word problem. That would be okay because you could put your causes here. You could put the effects here. The effect might simply be your answer, and the causes might be the different parts of your word problem. Totally great. Excellent. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, our first homework assignment is our choose your own math problem. The second one is grads. We always do grads for every lesson. So those of you who have not taken any of our other lessons, grads are the school-wide learning outcomes that we're trying to incorporate into our daily lives. And GRAD stands for growth-minded, responsible, actively engaged, determined, and socially responsible. Those are the traits that we're trying to take on in our daily lives. So for this particular map, I want you to discuss what are the causes and effects of living grads in your daily life. All right. So causes will go here, effects will go here. This is going to take some time, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to put a lot of critical thought into your maps here. And the question that we're trying to answer, the critical thinking question that we're going to answer in our frame of reference is, how could my life be impacted by implementing grads daily? So we're simply talking about what grads will do to change our life, right? When I say impact, it means like what effect will it have on your life? So we're talking about how will living grads change my life? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our second homework assignment. Very quickly, we're just going to go over our rubric one more time. Remember, you need to label your topic clearly and legibly. You need to have 3 or more causes, 3 or more effects. Your frame of reference needs to answer a critical thinking question and in your answer, you need to make connections to what you put on your map, right? It should be reviewing that same concept. Okay, and if you have any quotes or sources that you use to get your information, hint, hint, where did I find this math problem? Oh yeah, I found this in my book. I guess I could put my textbook on there, right? You need to cite any source you use because we're documenting evidence. Excellent, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're ready to do our 2 homework assignments. Remember, choose your own math problem is assignment 1, and how does grads, what are the causes and effects of living grads is assignment 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to seeing your exciting maps in the future. Have a wonderful week, and remember, you can always contact me or your teacher if you have any questions. All right, happy mapping. See you next week.